Hi, my name's FIDST. Today I'll be reading a writing prompt from Reddit called, "In Hell, People Can Choose What Happens to Them. They can choose literally anything." Naturally, many people try to exploit this by going for luxuries and pampering. But the devil always has ways to torture those fools. Contrary to what has been predicted, hell has 139 unique levels of punishment. The rules that apply to these levels are meticulously audited by a rotating panel of demons. For especially complex scenarios, Lucifer is consulted, though this route is preferred by none involved. The karmatic score achieved during life determines level placement upon death. On occasion, there are scores that place a human at the border of two levels, but in these instances, the lower level is always applied, as there have to be cutoffs, and exceptions are slippery slopes. Those placed at the higher levels experience relatively mundane existences. At 11, for example, residents are allowed to feel contentment, but not true joy or elation. They may request books to read, but they must only be books they have read before, and must be stories they found to just be alright. At the lower levels, 122 for example, residents must always be in a discomfort or agony, though they may choose what provides this experience. One resident may prefer listening to a single bothersome song for eons while only drinking vinegar. Another may choose to be scorched incessantly by the eternal fires. Most levels allow advancement, but the lower a resident finds themselves, the more difficult mobility becomes. The higher levels often see residents advance into the lower leagues of heaven, though this is a two-way street, as residents of heaven can work their way into being relegated to hell. At level 87, a resident can advance to level 86 only if they go without craving pleasure for a determined period of time. Even a single thought of, "I sure would enjoy a donut," is enough to restart the process. In one unique case, a resident of level 139, it is likely you can guess the few individuals that made their way there, made this way all the way up to level 1. Thought this was simply a clever punishment, as once he caught a glimpse of heaven, he was immediately sent back to level 139. Randolph Frigg died by slipping on a frozen patch of iced coffee. Coffee he had dumped out the day before, while walking to his car. During his 40 years of life, he had been mediocre in his cruelty. Once he had kicked a neighbor's dog for digging in his flower beds. Yet, 1 year prior to that incident, he had successfully raised funds for his grandmother's surgery. Though, he had spent a considerable amount of time considering keeping the funds himself. He often cursed out waiters, parked his car in 2 spaces, threw trash on the ground even though he was nearing a trash can. Yet, sometimes he would give a stranger directions, or smile at a barista and say thank you, or really listen to someone's problem without interrupting. The largest deduction to Randall's karmatic score came when he crashed his car into another, injuring the neck of another driver, then fled the scene. He was never found by police and never felt guilt. Only relief. This significantly contributed to his placement on level 19. On level 19, he could talk to other residents, but only about work and never about hobbies or interests. He could listen to music, but only at a volume barely audible. If he felt joy for more than a fleeting moment, he would receive a punishment equal to that experience of happiness. He had once reached level 16, but was sent back to 19 when he felt prolonged pride and arrogance with his achievement. Randall often tried to think of loopholes, but doing so brought him enjoyment, which then led to punishment. Eventually, Randall stumbled upon a loophole by accident. Instead of being excited by the potential of a loophole, he began to feel fearful of discovering one. This fear allowed him to think of loopholes more often, which led to his realization that this was itself a loophole. He began to watch his favorite movies, but would allow himself to be fearful that enjoying his movies would lead to punishment. This allowed him to enjoy the movie, while simultaneously being terrified that he was enjoying it. He applied this formula to conversations with other residents, eating his favorite foods, procuring sexual experiences he had fantasized about during life. Randall Frigg's system worked for a considerable period of time, but only because the debate surrounding the method by the panel of demons was arduous. Finally, with consulting Lucifer, it was decreed that feeling unsatisfied as a means to obtain satisfaction was prohibited. Though Randall's loophole was sealed, he was promoted to level 11 as a reward for helping the demons improve upon their systems and procedures. This prompt was from Crystal 1501. The author was StetsonSBostic. Read by FIDST. Have a fantastic day and a fantastic forever. I'll see you soon. Toodles, friends.